initial report was just that there was a hiker that was stranded on Mount Rapinski, which is right next to Haines, Alaska.
And we launched in the aircraft and headed up that way. That time of year it gets dark pretty early, so it got the sun set as we were headed up from Juneau up to Haines. By the time we got to Haines, it was fully dark.
And it was raining pretty heavily on the way there. And then once we got on scene, it was a little farther north to go up to Haines, and turned to snow. And the ceilings were probably about 500 feet overcast.
They believe that the survivor or the hiker was up at about 1,600 feet. Knowing that he was at 1,600 feet and that the ceilings were only at 500 feet, we knew that we probably couldn't get to him, to his altitude that night.
We didn't have a lot of options that night because the ceilings were so low, and especially with the snow, it would have been the risk was not worth the gain to try to get up there and try to find him at night. He didn't even have a flashlight, so it would have been very difficult to find him at night.
So we had to make the tough decision to leave Haines and head back down to Juneau to refuel the aircraft and prepare for the next morning.
After refueling and sleeping in Juneau for the night, the crew returned to Haines by 7:15 the next morning and began the search for the stranded hiker.
At this point, we were also talking to the search crew that was at that cliff base, and they told us that they believed that the hiker was up about 1,600 feet. We then slowly started to hover the aircraft, basically from ice clump and tree to tree, trying to see if we could find him, because he'd mentioned that he was by some trees and in a little gully.
As we started going back down, I was in the right seat. The mountain was off to my side. And as we start coming back down, I was flying as well. And as we start backing down, Andy said, "Whoa, whoa, hold up." And then as soon as he said that, I looked straight ahead where he was looking, and you could see a silhouette in the snow, a black silhouette right at the top of the mountain. The position he was in, made a third of the way down pretty much a sheer cliff. There was no way that they were going to be able to get him that day, especially not safely. And another concern was that we knew he had back injuries. So the position he was in, for us to safely stabilize him, to stabilize his back, we would have to disconnect the rescue swimmer and put him in a litter, which was not an option. It was not an option to disconnect the swimmer.
So with those icy conditions, we had legitimate concerns that our rotor wash, which is over 100 miles per hour, could dislodge him from the side of that cliff in his perch and cause him to fall. We were also concerned of starting avalanches. There had been some rock slides over the night and snow slides. So even if he could maintain his position, we were afraid of how much rock and ice we might push down on him.
Craig did a great job. He went down there and he actually had to climb up a little bit onto the ledge that the guy had dug himself into. And he was only down there for less than a minute probably. And he scooped him up and we hoisted him up. And as we were recovering him, the visibility was rapidly decreasing. I didn't really notice it that much because I was just staring at the cliff, but Andy was in the left seat. I remember him saying that he couldn't see anything at one point. So
the really neat thing that Nick Giametti, who is our flight mech and who was managing the hoist, did at this time was because of the blowing snow that was directly under the aircraft, he was losing sight of Craig and the hiker. And that's a pretty critical stage because if Nick gives too much cable, then Craig slides down the hill and goes below the hiker. If he pulls too much cable in, then he pulls Craig, the rescue swimmer, away from the hiker. So he did an excellent job with just managing tension by feel at different times as he was losing visibility intermittently of the actual hoisting area.
Now that I'm in this position, especially in aviation in the Coast Guard, it's almost a daily basis where you can make a difference. And I can't really describe the feeling, but it's good to know that you really can help somebody and change the rest of their life in a positive way.
when you, a lot of cases that we fly on end up either not having much of a outcome, or some of them don't have very good outcomes at all. So when you can have a case like this where you had to make some tough decisions and the outcome is really positive, and you know that that you were able to help save somebody and give that relief to them and their family, it's awesome.
Please welcome tonight's awardees from Air Station Sitka: Lieutenant Andrew Sheno, Lieutenant William Snyder, AMT-3 Nicholas Giamette, and AST-2 Craig Powers.